Next item.
ASCD conference.
Yes, Dr. Gail Shankman and Trustee McDonald just got back from presenting at the ASC conference, so they want to share what they presented and maybe some of the things they learned at the conference.
And in keeping with our desire to get to a certain event at 9:30, we'll try to be quick.
Be brief.
Yeah, it's more like 9. Yeah, but we want to be for the pregame.
Motions to extend. Much faster. So we were very honored to be invited to present our anti-bullying initiative at the ASCD conference, which is a national teaching conference in Chicago. And we attended some sessions that we wanted to share with you very briefly. And I have a couple sentences on each. So the conference opened with the president of the University of Maryland sharing his personal story and the importance of high expectations for all children. That seemed to be a theme in the conference. I was one of the very few attendees who got a seat to hear the retired Supreme Court Justice Sandra Day O'Connor tell her story and stress the importance of civics education in schools today. And as Maya Angelou was hoisted onto the stage in her wheelchair before a crowd that appeared to include all 10,000 attendees, we all waited to see if age had stolen some of her power. It hadn't. She still has her strong voice, and the audience soon forgot about the wheelchair as we sat mesmerized as she spoke. It was just an awesome experience. We also saw Charlotte Danielson, the author of our framework, from which our teacher evaluation system is based, and she shared the latest version of her work. Some of the breakout sessions included Dr. Jackson from the Urban Alliance speaking about the importance of having confidence and the expectation that all students will demonstrate high intellectual performance. As part of their contract, teachers in Skokie can earn additional compensation for working with their peers to initiate innovative projects to improve student learning, and I thought that was just fascinating. The ASCD staff shared information regarding the nationwide implementation of the Common Core state standards, and in another session, the presenter shared strategies to help students persevere and stay in school, and you'll be happy to know that we do quite a bit of that in our district, including our high school graduation intervention specialists.
I had went to a couple of sessions, and I just wanted to share some information with you that I received. The first one that I went to, well, I went to more than a couple, but there was a couple that I wanted to share, was creating a culture of achievement. And this was held by Nancy Fry, Douglas Fisher, and Ian Pumpian. And what they, thank you, they had talked about basically restoration practice, or restorative practices, which I thought was very interesting. And some of the things they said, if a child can't read, we teach them to read. If a child can't do math problems, we teach them to do math problems. But if a child doesn't know how to behave, we punish them. Now, I believe that's flawed thinking, so consider, is what we are doing opening up our students to learning, or is it shutting them down? And this was a graph that they had showed, and it was very interesting. They compared control to support in a classroom. And if you're on the way it was broken down, if you look at the quadrant, the quadrant that shows low support and low control, in that case you get a neglectful culture. If you go up and the control is higher, but you still have low support, then that's a punitive culture. And then if your support is high, but your control is low, then that's permissive. So what you want to do is have both high control and high support for your students, and that is the restorative practices that they talked about. Now, they also talked about having a paradigm shift, which in traditional discipline, the school and the rules are violated. With restorative practices, people and relationships have been violated. Excuse me. With traditional, the justice focuses on establishing guilt. With restorative, it focuses on identifying needs and obligations. Traditional is accountability equals punishment. Restorative, accountability equals understanding the impact and repairing harm. Traditional, justice directed toward the offender while the victim is ignored. With restorative practices, the offender, the victim, and the school all have a direct role to play in the justice process. Traditional, again, rules and intent outweigh whether the outcome is positive or negative. And with restorative, the offender is responsible for the harm in the behavior and repairing the harm in behavior, working towards a positive outcome. With traditional, there is no opportunity for the offender to have remorse or make amends. And with restorative, they are given that opportunity. With restorative, some of the skills that the student will learn is empathy, emotional intelligence, interpersonal skills, and cognitive skills. One of the other things they talked about in this particular session was obstacles to grading, so I just wanted to share some information. This is normally grades should provide the basis for differentiating students, and that's the regular thinking or the general thinking now. And you want to think, is my purpose to select talent or to develop it? Another obstacle may be grades distribution should be represented in a bell-shaped curve. Well, is random distribution, that only works when nothing intervenes? Should grades be based on student standings among classmates? Standings don't tell you anything about learning. Poor grades prompt students to try harder, or does it reinforce fixed beliefs of intelligence instead of a malleable view? And also, we've always done it this way. Well, shouldn't we be focused on continuous improvement of ourselves? So those were just some things I wanted to share. I do have the entire PowerPoint, and it's 41 pages. I shared about a quarter of it with you for that session. If anybody's interested, I'd be glad to send it to you. Another session that I went to was called Beyond Green Jobs, the Next American Economy. And that was put on by Van Jones. And they talked about the last American economy consisted of consumption without production and also credit without savings and ecological destruction, which is basically digging up dead stuff and burning it, is how he described it, which was interesting. And he said, well, what could possibly go wrong? Therefore, the next American economy should be based on the reverse, which would be driven by local production and not global consumption, based on thrift and conservation, not credit and waste, and grounded in ecological restoration. Then he talked about our children, and this was interesting. Our children face a future without significant resources, given the levels of consumption, waste, and pollution. Today's children are knowledgeable, they are connected, and they are basically walking, talking technological superpowers. And it's true. They have, all of the power in the palm of their hand than 20 years ago NASA had, So it's amazing what they're able to do. So they are imaginative, and they are also entrepreneurial. If you have a chance, look up Lyft with a Y, or Airbnb, or Kickstarter. This tells you some of the things that our young people are doing these days. And much of their success will come through apps and technology. After all, necessity is the mother of invention.